Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're just getting things. The environment is being prepared. So in just a few minutes, we're going to be starting our event here. My name is Mike. I am the founder of an organization called the Mystic Crew of the Silver Ball. We are kind of like a modern-day social aid and pleasure club that's composed of artists, musicians, tech people, and other kind of creative spirits. We're located in the New Orleans area, and we have an interesting venue called the PinChurch. It's an old church building that sat abandoned after Katrina that we bought and turned into our own private cyber studio. So that's where we are coming to now, from an undisclosed location in the New Orleans area. And what we had planned to do this evening was feature a full live concert from the band The Iceman Special. Friends of ours who apparently also share our love of pinball and other kinds of cool, eccentric things. And due to some unanticipated circumstances that we all are now aware of, it's not practical to get everybody in one place at one time to be able to do the show. So the band is actually doing a group event, but it's going to be in different locations at different times today, starting earlier and continuing after this show. Each of the members of the band is doing a live stream. I believe most of them are on Facebook. And we're coming to you tonight live featuring Steven Staples, the guitar player from the Iceman Special. So we're going to be doing an interview. This will be interactive too. So those of you in the chat room that want to say hi or have any questions for Steven, at some point later, we'll be soliciting them, and you can type some stuff in, and he can respond. Assuming we're having fun with this fog machine, but if I start coughing, it's not necessarily because I have coronavirus. It's because the environment here has been
prepared.
Yeah, prepared
by the Iceman.
So, we're also going to be premiering two songs that were shot at the Tibois Blues Festival, and I'll have Steven talk more about that. But let me see. I'm going to just do a little bit of PR here. If you're watching this now, you can right-click on the time where it says like 47 minutes ago and copy link location, at least in the PC, and you can kind of cross-post this, and we're going to encourage everybody to cross-post this link and get as many people tuned in as we can. And the base page of this is mysticcrew.com Facebook/PinChurch. I want to make sure. Give me 1 second here. All right. Yeah, we had directed people to live.mysticcrew.com, but since we're doing it on Facebook, we're going to redirect people to Facebook/PinChurch. But there is actually a link on the page to that if you go to live.mysticcrew.com. So, without further ado, let's get Steven out here. Welcome, Steven. And if you guys notice any audio problems, feel free to type something into the chat room, and hopefully we can address that right away.
Which camera are we at? Here?
You know, I think we're right in the center right now.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. It's very mystical in here now.
We wanted to make it look as much like an Iceman show as we possibly could. So thank you guys for all tuning in and watching us tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on with the band right now in response to what's happened with this outbreak of this COVID virus, and about some things that are happening later tonight. Some of the guys in the band are sequestered in an old office building that was built a long time ago in Oakdale, Louisiana, which is where 3 of us are from. And they are going to do a show after this show at 9 o'clock, which will be a live interview and music performance with a new band that they've formed just for this occasion. And I believe the name of it is Void 19. And so you'll be hearing that later if you care to watch that, which we hope that you will. At least we'll be able to be in touch with you, the entire band, today, if you have so chosen to spend this much time with us. So, first of all, I want to say that we're also, towards the end of this interview, we're going to be airing a video that was shot live at the Tibois Festival. 2 songs. One of the first songs that we ever wrote together. We actually wrote it during a practice session called Pinstripe, and it was named after one of the guitars that I used to have that had pinstripes on it, and that was one of the first things that we ever learned and wrote together. And then a new song, the latest song that we've written, and we performed them together at Tibois, so later you'll be hearing and seeing the video and live musical performance of that, those 2 songs, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And I want to say before, and I will probably say it again, is that the man that filmed it was Steve Richardson. He filmed it and recorded it and mixed it and edited it for what you're going to see tonight. It's a specially made video for this particular online event. So thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about what's going on with the band. Probably nothing surprising that we're all separated from each other. We were supposed to perform tonight, but we decided that it was a better idea for us to not try to spread the disease. I left my apartment and drove straight here. I didn't stop and came in anywhere or go in anywhere, and I came straight here, and Steve and I stay, Mike and I stay 6 feet apart or farther most of the time. Everything in here is sanitized, and Will and Charlie, the lead singer and the other guitar player in the band, are in Oakdale, Louisiana, which is where Will and Charlie Murray are from, and as well as I am from. And Hunter Romero, our drummer, is at his apartment in New Orleans. So we decided that it was prudent that we not come in here as a group, and that Will and Charlie didn't have to drive 200 miles from where they are and have to stop at gas stations and possibly spread the virus or expose the virus. Although none of us are displaying any symptoms at this time, we want to be sure that we give ourselves 2 weeks minimum sequestered before we venture out. And so that's what we've decided to do, and I'm sure that you understand that. I just saw a video that Vince Gill posted on Facebook that he's doing the same thing, so it's happening to everybody, and it's an incredible set of circumstances, and hopefully the world will become a better place for it. That's what I'm going to choose to believe. So that's what's going on with the band. I wanted to say that the boys and I, and when I say the boys, I'm talking about Will and Charlie Murray. Will is our singer and guitar player, and Charlie is our bass player. We're from a town called Oakdale, and they are staying in a building that was built by their great-grandfather, that was the office building for a lumber company that he started in the early 1900s. And they are in that office building with a couple of other people from New Orleans, and they haven't left. People are bringing them food and putting it on the doorstep. And they've been in there for over a week, almost a week and a half, I guess. And their family and my family have been friends since about 1915. Their great-grandfather and my grandfather were really good friends. They lived right next door to each other. And their grandmother and my mother were best friends. Grew up right next door to each other, went to grammar school, junior high, high school, and then went off to college and were roommates. And so I've known Will and Charlie basically since the day they were born, and I'm really good friends with their parents. And our families are thick as thieves, if you want to say something like that, but it's like I'm part of their family and they're part of my family, and it's a fantastic thing. And we've gotten to know Hunter, our drummer's family, really well. It's really like one big family, and we just wanted to tell you a little bit about part of the history of that. Hunter Romero, our drummer, is Roddy Romero's nephew. Hunter's father, Jeff Romero, is Roddy Romero's brother, and he played drums for Roddy and traveled around with Roddy when Roddy was younger, and he got discovered and traveled around the world. And so Hunter comes from a long line of musicians. My grandmother was also a piano player, and the boys' grandfather was a guitar player and a state representative, but he was a musician. And so we all come from musical backgrounds, musical families, and it's a treasured commodity for us that we're so close to each other and that we share a musical heritage from South Louisiana. And I think it adds to something that goes on in our band. And it's real special. So I just wanted to say all that. And I want to make sure I don't forget the things that I want to talk about, so I'm going to look here on my phone.
So I guess you want to talk about how this has affected the band. The band was playing and had tour dates, right? And some are canceled and some are still on.
Well, we had a bunch of festivals that were supposed to happen. We were playing, and we had a lot of really good gigs at clubs scattered across the United States, and all of those gigs, for the most part, got canceled, except for, at least so far, the Summer Camp Festival, which is a huge festival, and also Electric Forest. And I don't know if they've officially changed Electric Forest yet.
So how far out are those dates that haven't
They're
been canceled?
mid-summer, late summer.
So July.
So June, late June, and I'm not quite sure of the exact dates, but they haven't been canceled officially as of yet. We've had you know, just like every musician, I mean, I've been telling people, I said, you know, do you realize that there are no concerts going on anywhere on the planet? So it's just, you know, it's an unfortunate thing, but it's amazing the resources that musicians have. Just almost within a week, most musicians are doing something online, and it's beautiful. You know, I saw Anders Osborne's show the other night that he did from his living room. It was just something that people were craving, and it was just an amazing experience. And you know, hopefully there'll be a lot more of that. I mean, I know it's going on right now. People are very resourceful, and one of the things that I said was that it's almost as though what's happened is a muse in disguise, because it's forcing people to reach into their creative psyches and do things in ways that they haven't done before. And it's happening in not just in the musical and art field, but it's happening also with, like, you know, General Motors shutting down some of their plants to make ventilators for people that have the disease that need to be able to breathe. You know, perfume makers making hand sanitizer, things like that. It's happening all over the country. The truck drivers are delivering the stuff to the stores. They're stocking stores at night, and letting old people shop first in the morning. They've changed some of their hours. They have special things going on for just in every place that you can think of, and it's just mushrooming into this thing that we have to do together. I think I read a thing that this morning online that a guy said that, you know, the virus has awakened a sleeping giant, and that we're going to respond to it in kind and get ourselves out of this and deal with it in ways that are going to help everybody. So I believe that's going to happen.
By the way, congratulations on getting on the cover of Offbeat magazine. That was pretty cool. You guys get a lot more attention, more fans from that. People going, who is this Iceman special? I'd never heard of them before.
Oh yeah, it was a rapid response. I mean, I think I got 150 or 200 emails the next day after it hit the newsstands.
Because you guys were kind of like an underground band for a while, right? And
well, we were.
But you've always had a pretty nice sized following. Huh?
Yes, we did. We have a really strong following in New Orleans and in Lake Charles. That's where we started. The very first gig that the band played was in Lake Charles. I wasn't on the first gig, but right after that gig, they asked me to be in the band. But Hunter went to school, to college at McNeese, and he was fairly well known there because he was a football player on an undefeated football team, and he was kind of a football hero, and everybody knew him, and so he drew some people, and they started coming to hear us, and we developed a following there, actually before we developed a following in New Orleans. But we were playing pop-up shows here in New Orleans at places like D-Max or, you know, in people's backyards and things like that, which we continue to do from time to time, but that was how we were, you know, getting known and getting tighter, was by playing gigs, you know, like most bands, any gig you can get. We played down at the BMC for a little while in the French Quarter, and but we started.
How'd you describe your sound? Like, what are your influences?
It's really hard for me to describe it. It's basically rock music, but it has, because of the way Hunter plays the drums, his heart is in Zydeco music. So he's a Zydeco rock drummer, and Zydeco is kind of rock and roll. If you really go hear some of these guys play, they play a lot of stuff that's rock and rollish, and so, but it has a different feel to it. And Hunter definitely throws as much of that as he can into us, because that's who he is, and we love that. And I think that changes the flavor of what we do. And Will is a big country music fan, and we have another band, Will and Charlie and I, call Holly Rock, which we had before the Iceman special started, and we do Americana and country music and our own. And they've written a bunch of songs, and we do some songs that I've written in that band. But it's got a more of a Americana country rock kind of a feel, that band. And so all of that comes into it, and of course I'm older than they are, and I played here in New Orleans, and I started playing in a band called the Twilights in the mid-'60s, and then that band broke apart and formed with another band to form the Gunga Dins, which had already existed before us. And so I was playing rock music, mostly British invasion kind of stuff, covered, but we did original stuff too. We recorded at Cosmos Studios in the 60s. We had 2 hit records. So I bring all of that rock stuff, and I was always a surf guitar player, and I like Jimi Hendrix, which is a really weird combination, but because he wasn't crazy about surf music, but I love surf music, and so that's one of the reasons why I play this guitar, because it has a real surfy sound, and you can't get that sound out of a lot of guitars. And I use pedals to modify it to get all the other sounds that I get. But I bring all that older rock stuff and into the band, and surf. I mean, if you hear us, you'll hear surf in there. I pepper everything that we do with some sort of a surf vibe.
Yeah, I love the sound that you're getting out of all of that, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later, about the rig that you're using and what's special about the equipment. And And I think one of the things I think is so cool is the diversity of ages in your group. And I know that the Offbeat article kind of made reference to that too, because you're much older than some of the other guys in the band, and
all of the other guys in the band. I'm much older than all of them.
Could you be their father or their grandfather?
I don't know. My maturity level probably is less than what theirs is, but my age is significantly. I'm
Right.
68. I think Will is 30 or 31. Charlie is, I think, 29 or 30, and Hunter is, I think, 27. So there's a 38, 30, 37, 38 year difference between our ages.
I think that's really awesome, though, because it just seems like culturally, the younger generation doesn't look at the older generation as really having a whole lot to offer them other than just screwing up the environment, with that kind of okay boomer meme that's going around. It's like if you're older, they're like, yeah, whatever. And I think it's uplifting. Uh-oh, what is
What's that? We've got some. Oh, we got a phone talking to us.
Oh, wow. I said meme and the phone started identifying. But I must have fired up that thing. Okay, we'll let that go. But I can say Alexa around here, nothing responds, so that's good. But to get back to what we were talking about, I just think it's really, really cool that there's a diversity of ages here and experience. And do you think that this gives you guys a little bit more depth, or does it make? I mean, having somebody older in the band, is it? How does that benefit the band? What does it do for the dynamic? I mean, do you notice anything, or are you just one of the guys?
I'm pretty much just one of the guys, and I think it. For me, I don't know what their perception of it is, and if they were here, I'm sure they could talk about it. I think it adds something to the band. It adds something to us as a unit, and at the same time, it's really important for me that I'm one of the guys. I mean, sometimes they help me carry equipment out of the kindness of their hearts, but I load the van sometimes too, and I carry my stuff into the gigs, and I don't usually stay out as late as they do after the gigs. I usually go back to the hotel and go to sleep, but not always. I like to party with them too. I mean, we have a lot of fun and we party together. It's a great thing. I don't feel really awkward about it, but I won't say that I didn't at first. At first, it was something that I think all of us had to get used to. But they invited me to be in the band, so I figured if they invited me, they must have invited me because they liked what I did musically and they thought that they could get along with me.
Well, you're bringing in all the chicks.
I'm bringing in all the chicks, right?
I
That's not true, you guys.
You're a 68-year-old guy hanging with a 27-year-old guy, and you know that like everything a 27-year-old guy has done, you did that like 20 or 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So you see him doing stuff, and you're like, oh, I know how this is going to end. Do you just keep your mouth shut and say it's something for them to learn, or do you...
I would say 98% of the time. There's a 2% of the time when I say, you know how this is going to end, or, this is, you're going to feel bad tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I don't, it's like, it doesn't, I try to take the thing as like, if does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said now? Mm-hmm. And usually the answer is no to all three questions.
So does the band have any messages? Is there any kind of a concept or kind of a moral to the material that you write or the messages that you're putting out there?
Well, I think lyrically, Charlie writes, I would say 99% of the lyrics of all the songs that we've released so far. And I mean, you have to listen to the lyrics. I think there's definitely a message in a lot of the songs. He's a very spiritual guy, and I think that the songs have our idea basically is to be kind to people and help each other and take a look at yourself and try to be loving and accepting. And I mean, one of the things that I tell people when they say, well, how do you get along and how do you rehearse and what goes on in your rehearsals, I'm reminded of quite often that, we have creative differences from time to time, and we all feel pretty strongly about how the music is going to be But I remember on more than one occasion when things got heated at rehearsal, and Will would say, "Hey guys, you know what I want to say?" And we go, "What?" He'll go, "I love you guys. Everything's going to be all right." So I mean that, you know,
That's
it's the
nice.
first band I've ever been in where that kind of thing was really that happened.
I've ever been in a band where that,
I know.
the
It's
other
I've
guy-
never been in a band where that happened either, but that actually has happened on more than one occasion, and we love each other, and we're like a family. It's not just like we work together. You know, we like at Thanksgiving and Christmas, we interact, all of us, all four of us. Our families interact, and I go to Thanksgiving dinner at their house. I go over to their house on Christmas morning. You know, it's just it's different.
I think, you know, and the older you get, the more you realize how precious that whole aspect is. And it's times like this, you know, where everybody is all holed up, and every time you turn on the media, they're just scaring the crap out of you, and you feel scared. You want to know there's somebody there that cares about you. You want to know that somebody's looking out for you. You know.
That's right.
And I think it's really important for all of us to send that message that as bad as it gets, you're not alone. You know.
That's right. And I mean, before this virus outbreak, that's the way we were functioning, as a family. I mean, not just as a band, but as a family, and it carried over into the band. But I mean, all of their family has told me, you know, you're welcome. You don't ever have to. If we have events with our family, you're always invited. You don't have to wait for us to ask you. You just assume that you're going to be coming and being a part of what we're doing, always. So, you know, that's been going on for over 100 years between our families. So, I mean, literally, when I was a 5-year-old kid on Christmas morning, our family would go over to their great-grandfather's house and spend Christmas morning at their house. He had a party, and we were invited every Christmas.
But we're looking forward to this whole viral thing clearing up and getting the whole band in here and having one hell of a party.
Oh, man.
You know, we've been planning this for so long, too, and it's just, it's being delayed, but it's going to happen. We're looking forward to it. Do you want to play any music for us? Do you want to talk about these lovely pieces of
Let me see what
musical
my
art?
bullet points are here. Oh, well, I wanted to talk about the fact that we are in the process of writing a new album. I'm not going to tell you what the concept is. That's going to be a surprise to our fans, but we already have a concept, and we're headed in that direction. We also have met with our agent and manager. Jordan Carrier is our agent, and our manager is Adam Kowalski. And they're working on tours as we speak. We've had a couple of meetings with them in the last week or so online. And so we're going to be ready to go out on the road to see everybody as soon as this thing clears. And so, you know, we're not going to break up. We're staying together, and we have a lot of plans and hopes for the future. And I'm very encouraged by it. And this is just the beginning of that this night. Hunter's really good at, and so are Will and Charlie, good at creating events. We have our own music festival called The Void. If you look online, especially on Facebook, we have a page called The Void Camp and The Void, and it's a music festival that we throw. And right now, we're going to be throwing it in Oakdale, Louisiana. We threw it there last year. And it's at the same place that I was telling you about earlier. It'll be the first weekend in October, and I'm sure that will be good by then, and we're going to have this fantastic music festival sliding right out of this virus thing that we're involved in, and it's going to be fantastic. Unfortunately, they did move not unfortunately, but the reality of the situation is that they moved the French Quarter Festival to the same weekend, but we did it last year the same weekend as the French Quarter Festival, and a lot of people came to our festival, and so it's an alternative thing, and it's really nice. You can camp out for 3 days. There's food and artists and live bands. We usually have 2 or 3 stages of live music going on simultaneously, or we stagger them so that you can go see everybody. But 3 days of music and camping and eating and camaraderie, and we usually have a woman that leads meditation. They do yoga, and it also is to benefit. We do it to benefit mental health program in our area around Oakdale, in that Allen Parish and Evangeline Parish and Calcasieu Parish. So we're giving proceeds from the festival to charity to help people in need. So I wanted to talk a little bit also about, a lot of people ask me about how we write songs. So most of the songs that we write when we're together as a group. Every once in a while, Will or I or Charlie or Hunter will come up with an idea and bring it to rehearsal, and then we'll build from there. And every song that we do is like that. Charlie sometimes has lyrics that we write music to, and sometimes we write music and he writes lyrics to them. But it's a creative process, and we share in songwriting on all of our songs. So it's a group process, and it's fantastic. And that's something that I think that we do well. All the songs on all of our records are like that. So that's what we do. And so I think that what we're going to do is, do we want to ask questions, or do we want to see the video first?
Well, let's see. If there's anybody in the chat room that has any questions, feel free to post them in there, and I will present them to Stephen. And yeah, and soon, and we also want to talk about all this cool equipment you got.
Yep.
You've got definitely some pretty nice guitars there. I should probably switch the camera over to the other one so I can. So basically, it's just me and Stephen here, and I'm running back in the control room. So I'll switch the camera like that, and then I'll run back into the room over here. So kind of being very safe. Got our social distancing happening.
Are you here now?
Yeah, I'm here. And if anybody has any questions, we'll take those. And in the meantime, let's talk about. So you are the owner of International Vintage Guitars. That's your day job, you would say?
Yeah, my part-time day job. The band takes up a lot of time and energy. Luckily, I have people that work for me at the
guitar shop. And so you
shop.
brought some pretty impressive-looking guitars along with you, as well as a really cool sounding amp there too. I noticed that, and then you've got this big effects board here, and I guess a big part of the Iceman Specials sound is the guitars and the guitar sound that you obviously take a lot of effort into creating, right, and crafting.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of our songs have a lot of the sort of psychedelic, spacey, that's the way I would describe it. I don't know what the boys would call it, but we use a lot of echo and reverb and manipulation of our guitar signals. This is the guitar that I play most of the time. Will plays, he has a couple of Stratocasters. I have played Jaguars for the most part all the time in the band. I have had some other guitars that I play from time to time, but this is what I play as a Fender Jaguar. This guitar was, I think, originally released by Fender in like 1962, something like that. There was a guitar that looked something like it that came out in '58 called the Jazzmaster, but it was a different animal. This guitar has a shorter distance between this part of the neck and the bridge than most guitars. It's 24 inches. Most guitars like Stratocasters are like 25 and a half or 25, and Telecasters are the same way, and Les Pauls are longer as well. Gibson guitars have a longer scale. And what it does is it gives the strings a little bit more spongy. I call it spongy. They're a little bit easier to bend, and it gives the guitar a unique sound because of that.
What kind of strings are you playing?
I use 10 gauge strings, and I'm not real picky about what brand I use. I use Diodarios, Ernie Balls, or GHS boomers, but I like boomers pretty much. That's what I like the most because they're even a little bit spongier.
Do you change them often, or do you like them to kind of just
No,
themselves?
I change them all the time.
Oh, okay.
I don't like breaking strings on stage.
So Stuart asks, who are some of your biggest influences in the surf music world, and how much of that was floating around Louisiana when you started playing?
Well, there's one song that changed it all for me. It's called "The Lonely Surfer." It's by a guy named Jack Nietzsche, and he was a producer and a songwriter. He wrote "Needles and Pins," real famous rock and roll song from the '60s, and which was done by a band called the Searchers. He wrote that song, and he was quite a musician. He produced a couple of Rolling Stones albums, but nevertheless, in the early '60s, when I was in junior high school, or maybe right before I got in junior high school, he released a song that he wrote, that he had the Wrecking Crew and a bunch of guys in California play, called "The Lonely Surfer." And it's a surf song with French horns, and a 6-string bass is playing the lead line. And when I heard that song, it made the hair stand up on the back of my arms, if I had any on my arms back then, but it gave me goosebumps. And I still have it in my daily rotation when I go for walks in the morning with my dog. That usually comes up at least 2 or 3 times a week. I love that song. If you ever want to go listen to it, it's quite an amazing song. Highly influential in surf music. But I mean, I like the Ventures a lot, a whole lot. And I liked all the surf songs, that were really famous surf songs, like Pipeline or Telstar, Mr. Moto, Surf Rider, which we play. We cover that in the Iceman special. That's a great song used in some Quentin Tarantino movies. And Walk, Don't Run and Pipeline. Those are some of the songs that I played in the Gunga Dens.
So you guys had the distinction of playing at the Mom's Ball, right?
Right. We played there. We played the Mom's Ball, I think, 3 or 4 times. We played the Halloween one first, and then we played the rest 3 times after that.
So Grayson asks, what's one of your favorite memories from doing that gig? And was it any different than a regular gig? I mean, what was the scene like at that?
Well, it's the Mom's Ball.
I know, but not everybody that's watching may know what it is.
Oh well, okay.
We know how.
I may get this wrong, but I mean, I've
been
been basically living in New Orleans for the most part. I moved away a couple of times, but I always moved back since the since the '50s.
We take for granted that people have even the remotest inkling of how crazy and wonderful this area is.
So I won't get explicit about it, but what I will say is the Mom's Ball was started, and if you're a member of the Mom's crew, then I may get this wrong. So I mean, I saw it from afar because I wasn't going to it when I heard about it first. So it was like an underground Mardi Gras crew that didn't have a parade, but they threw a big party that they called a ball every year, and they had bands playing. It lasted all night, and it was how can I say? It was beyond risque. Let's put it that way. It was all no holes barred. Let's do whatever we want and be crazy for about 18 or 20 hours.
Right.
It started about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and it went on until 7 o'clock in the morning.
In the true sense of the tradition of kind of letting it all go before you have to
it was
kind of
if you compressed all the wildness of Bourbon Street into one room and had it all happen in a 12-hour period, it happened at the Mom's Ball. It was notorious. You have to be invited to it still. You can't just buy a ticket and go to it. It's a private deal. It's fantastic, and it's evolved into this beautiful spectacle. This year, it started, it used to be, it was the Radiators that played every year, and that was the deal. And so they would play, I don't know how many hours they would play, but they would play these really long sets. I'm sure they took breaks, but that was the deal. If you were going to the Mom's Ball, you knew you were going to see the Radiators. And they did that until I guess they quit playing together. And then they had to, the Mom's Ball had to get creative, and they got bigger, more people joined them, and they expanded into having more bands and bigger name bands and multiple stages. And now it's just spectacular. It's almost like a music festival that happens one night. And they have bands from all over the country and world that play there. They have a lot of local bands, and they have 2 or 3 stages. And this year was, it was fantastic. The lighting, the sound, professionalism, the way that it was organized was just amazing. And if you go look on my Facebook page, or some of the people like Shell and Steve If you look on their website, you can see pictures of stuff that was posted of things that were at the Mom's Ball that they took photos of. It's pretty fantastic. So anyway, the way that it happened with us was that we were playing at DMAX, putting on our own show at DMAX, and the guys at the Mom's Ball came to hear us because someone, actually it was the man who just passed away, who owned the Bank Street Bar, told the guys at the Mom's Ball about us. And and they came to hear us, I think on his recommendation, and this was prior to the Halloween ball that they put on, and they came and heard us at DMAX and hired us basically on the spot, and we've been playing for them ever since, and it's a marriage made in heaven. We love those guys. They treat us well. We try to put on a really exceptional show for them each year. We learn new songs. We make up new sets. We do a lot of theatrics. We wear costumes when we play. We usually wear costumes when we play anyway, but the Mom's Ball, we kind of try to have a different costume every year, and it's a great thing. I look forward to being in it next year.
So Lauren asks, do you have one guitar that is your most cherished favorite?
This one right here. This is the one.
So what is that?
It's not for sale.
It looks so clean. Is it a new guitar?
It's fairly new. It's probably, I'm going to say it's a 2011 or 12. They only made this guitar for a few years. It's a 1965 reissue. It's a reissue, it's an exact copy of a 1965 one. The distinctive feature of that being at 65 is that it has a white binding along the neck. Prior to 65, they didn't have binding along the neck, which makes it a lot smoother and easier to play. But this is the guitar that I love.
So Brian wants to know, where did you get that sick hoodie?
Well,
he also wants to know, what are the best psychedelics to take for an Iceman show?
Well, I don't know if I'm a good... I probably am. I mean, I don't do psychedelics anymore. I don't need them. But
do you think? I mean, is your band that kind of band where you kind of want to trip out and see it? Because I think you guys are really entertaining, completely sober too, right?
Well, I think that you can come to our show sober and you will have a psychedelic experience of some sort. I mean, because
we have lighting. Is the psychedelic.
Well, we have lighting. We usually, whenever we can, we hire a light guy to go with us quite often when we can afford it. And we love lights and smoke, and we have black lights on stage with us no matter where we go. And we wear costumes that reflect the black light a lot of the time. So,
so where'd you get that hoodie?
Okay, all right, the hoodie. So we're playing in the French Quarter at Sbisa, S-B-I-S-A, which is a restaurant. It was being run by a friend of ours for a while named Shaq. We call him Shaq. His real name is Travis, but he was managing that place and running it for a while when we first got started, and he hired us to play down there once a week for a few months. And so one night during the break, I was walking, I walked outside to get a breather, and I was walked down the street, and there was one of those, you know, we have all those shops in the French Quarter that have T-shirts and clothing and all that kind of stuff. And I walked in there, and there was a rack of these hoodies. And I was attracted to it right away because of the color and because of the oddity of the way that the cloth is sewn together. And so I went in and I bought it. And so I wore it so much that I had to, I looked on the label and saw the name of the company. This thing is made in Tibet, up in the mountains, by the wives of Sherpas. And they still make them, so I have two other ones that I have as standbys, and that's the story. And it became the look, like, you know, lots of people that play in bands have a costume that you relate to them with, and this is mine. And that's how it came about. It was kind of an accident. I was always wearing sunglasses on stage, and these sunglasses were given to me as a gift by my girlfriend Darlene, and they fit because the rims, by coincidence, light up in black light, which is sort of serendipitous, but people like them. And but I have other sunglasses that I wear too from time to time. So anyway.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about these guitars that you brought, and then maybe just play a bit, and then we'll show the video if you want.
All right. Well, this is my guitar, the one I play, and I'm always looking for another Jaguar that I like. I've had about 10 other ones since we've been playing, and
So you've got an ES-335 over there, I noticed.
I've got a. These guitars are from my guitar shop.
So they're for sale?
These are all for sale. This is a 1967 Gibson ES-335. It's all original. It has nylon saddles in the bridge, which is something they did for a while. It's in really good shape. It sounds amazing. It's a fantastic guitar. So highly sought after by players.
So what's the special for somebody who's watching this special live thing? If they come in, they could say a certain code word and get a good deal on that.
Well,
am I putting you on the spot?
No. You could just say PinChurch.
Okay.
And I'll give you a deal on it. I'll give you 10% off.
That's a sweet.
These guitars are. I mean, the truth is the vintage guitar markets, particularly since the Japanese started buying them up in the 90s, and then with the development. I mean, we know what's happened on the internet since the 90s, that everybody in the world can look up guitars and buy them and sell them online, which is happening, hopefully as we speak. But it's certainly been happening. It sort of leveled the playing field. It caused a lot of competition, but it also it increased awareness of the value of guitars across the world, almost within a few years. And so they're hard to get nowadays.
Do you think like these older guitars truly are like better instruments? Because I'm under the impression, for example, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, when they were harvesting wood, they were getting like really old growth wood, that was really tight rings, and nowadays they're growing all this stuff rapidly using technology, and maybe the wood isn't as dense and it doesn't sound as good. Is that an argument, or is that kind of bunk?
Well, that's an argument. I mean, I've been in business since the 1992 doing this, and before that I was working at a guitar shop, and I've been playing guitars my whole life. The truth is that there were people that were craftsmen during those days that were assembled in groups by these companies like Gibson and Fender and Martin and Gretsch and Rickenbacker, and
so you don't necessarily think it's how old it is, it's what talent was behind the craft of the guitar?
Well, American guitars are regarded, and truly are, in my opinion, overall the best guitars in the world. It's not to say they don't make really great guitars in Germany, because they do. And they made some really great guitars in England, and they make great guitars in Australia. And they made some really incredibly cool guitars in Italy, but in France and Spain, and even in South America, some just amazing things. And of course in Spain, which is basically where the guitar came up out of North Africa, the Moorish thing in Spain, where they were playing classical guitars and flamenco guitars, that's where it sort of came from, and the lute in Europe. But there's a certain thing about the craftsmanship at Gibson prior to 66, 67, 68, and then later those companies got sold for various reasons. Fender got sold, and the quality has waxed and waned. I think that you can still get a guitar that's a new guitar that's as good as most old guitars, with some exceptions, like because of what you said and because of the crop. There's some mandolins and guitars that were made by this guy named Lohr in Gibson in the 20s that sell for $50,000. They're acoustic mandolins, and they were made by this guy named Lloyd Lohr, and he was just a master craftsman. And so he did things in a way that it's hard to replicate. I'm sure there's guys building really great guitars. There's a great couple of guitar companies here in the United States called Collings and Santa Cruz. They make acoustic guitars. I've never played a bad one from either one of those brands. I mean, every one I've ever played is like, holy mackerel, this is amazing.
It's a new era for these boutique manufacturers that are just producing the small.
But one of the things I like to point out to people is that those guitars that were being played on all those records in the 40s and the 50s, in the 60s, were new. They weren't vintage guitars at the time. They were new guitars. They hadn't been broken in. The wood was not that old. you know, they were, but the craftsmanship was great. So we got another question?
Yeah, Alex asks, what's your favorite track that you guys have written?
Okay, that's good. Boy, that's a hard question. The favorite track that we've written. I mean, I like Expectations a lot. I like the words. I like the upbeat part of it. I think it's one of our better songs. And, you know, I like Masquerade a lot. That's one of my favorites.
Do you have like one that you prefer to listen to and one that you prefer to play?
You know, it's hard to say. I love them all. I really do. I can't. I mean, I like the guitar songs, the big guitar songs. I like Pinstripe. I like the new one that we're playing. I like one that we just released called Flatline. But
and you got some new stuff you're working on
I also
right
like
now.
Tour Through Ecuador, and I mean, it's like I like. I mean,
how many songs do you guys have? Would you say in your repertoire?
Oh, geez, in our repertoire, probably, I don't know, close to 100.
Really? Wow.
I mean, in our repertoire, if we look at our whole repertoire from all the stuff that we learned for shows and things like that that we can draw from, in that, up around that.
That's really cool. So Taylor wants to know, what's your favorite part about going on tour?
Well, I tell you, I know what that is. It's when we go on tour, we have learned how to function as a unit. And it's just like, I think anybody that's experienced this, teamwork. Like when everybody's pulling their weight, everybody's doing everything together, everybody's helping each other out. We're all, doing things together constantly. And there's nothing that feels better than doing something as a team and having everybody have an equal part in it. And that's what happens. And it's just, I love it. And the other thing I like about it is that getting to see the country, getting to see America, and hopefully one day Europe and Japan, or maybe even, who knows. But that would be great. But
How are you guys touring right now? Or do you have a bus, or you just kind of got your little
We
vehicles?
just bought a new bus. We bought a 2019 Chevrolet 19-passenger, 18-passenger cargo van. We took the 2 back seats out so we don't have to use a trailer. And 2 people can always be laying down, which 2 people are usually laying down. And the front right seat, the passenger seat, leans all the way back. So 3 people of the 4 can, while the other person drives, and whoever drives gets to pick what music we're listening to.
So in the 21st century, an independent band that's out there touring, what do you have to do that maybe 20 years ago you didn't have to take care of because they had infrastructure in place? Because it seems to me, right, that nobody needs to be signed to a label anymore now to kind of just go out there and do their own thing, right? And a lot of bands are just taking it upon themselves to produce their own albums, record their own albums. It used to be you'd wait until you got signed and then you'd go into the studio.
Yeah, it's changed.
So it's a lot different now.
And the internet's changed that. The resourcefulness, it's like sometimes we make our hotel reservations while we're driving between. When we get on the phone, we find the best deal that's closest to the venue, and we just make it on the phone, and when we get there, the room's reserved. So, but we also are fortunate that we have an agent and a manager who, about, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years ago, sort of doing the majority of the lion's share of that for us, although we still book some of our own shows. I mean, we do that. Because they can't know about everything, and we have connections, and people contact us personally, and usually we refer them to them, but every once in a while people will call us and say, we want you to do this gig at our private restaurant in Mississippi for a private party that we're going to have, and we go over there and play it. So, Hunter does a lot of the promo work. He's a beast at doing that kind of stuff. He's fantastic. And Will and Charlie and I try to support him as much as we can. And before we had our agent, we were doing it ourselves. Basically, Hunter and Will were doing most of the work on that. It was probably driving them crazy, from what I could see. But we went on some tours before we had an agent and a manager. But it's been a lot easier since we had an agent and a manager.
So Austin asks, who exactly is the Iceman?
Well, the Iceman's real name is Kyle. He's not in the band. He's a friend of ours. And
I guess he's special?
well, Well, I don't. It's like I don't online. I don't want to tell all the secrets. We have to like to keep some mystique. But there's nobody in the band who's the Iceman. He's a friend of ours, and his nickname was the Iceman, and so that was suggested as a name when we first got started, and so they just did it. I think sort of as a whim, or like, well, we'll just call ourselves that, not thinking like there was going to be any sort of big future involved, and it stuck. And now it seems totally natural and normal just to use that phraseology or that name, and I like it a lot. I think it's a great name. And it's funny because people get the name mixed up. Like one night we got a check that was made out to the Iceman spaceship, and the Iceman cometh, which is that's an easy jump, but
yeah,
it's funny.
I figure every
it is the Iceman
writer
spaceship.
that's going to do a story on you guys is going to title their story that. You got the Iceman cometh to town. So we can show the video. We could have you play a little bit. Do you want to?
Well, I would like to just. Do we have time? If we have time, I mean, I don't want. If the fans are saying, "Show us the video," let's do that. But I was going to show people about how what my guitar does, and talk a little bit about my pedal board.
Well, we have a couple more questions if you want to kind of.
Yeah,
quickly
let's answer the
them.
questions.
Well, okay, yeah. So Evan asks, how did you meet the Murray brothers and Hunter?
Well, I explained that earlier. Maybe you got into the show later, but okay, here's what happened. The Murray's family and my family were really good friends. The Iceman, who lived in Lake Charles, knew Hunter, and he knew the Murray brothers, and he suggested to them that they should get together and jam because he knew that Hunter played the drums and the Murrays played guitar and bass and drums. So they got together and jammed and called themselves the Iceman Special because the Iceman was the one that got them together.
Oh, I got you.
Kyle got them together. And then they came back to New Orleans and said, we want you to join
It wasn't
the
because
band.
they found you in a block of ice. You were
No, but
you were
here's the thing. Well, no, I was already playing in a band
that
with
could
Will.
be a good shtick you guys
Well,
could do.
right, I know, but we tried to stay away from that because at the beginning it was tempting to use that. We did
Unfrozen caveman guitar player.
whatever. But Will and Charlie moved to New Orleans unbeknownst to me. I knew that they had a band called Holly Rock in Oakdale, and some friends of mine had seen them, but I had never. When I found out about who they were, my mother was ill, and I was helping my brother take care of her in Oakdale, and so I didn't get out much because I really couldn't leave. And so I ran into Charlie at an open mic night at D-Max. And Charlie said, well, and we got up and played with Danny Alexander. Charlie played drums and I played guitar. And we were both pretty nervous, but it was fun. And after that, Charlie said, you should come jam with me and Will. We have a two-piece band and you could come play guitar with us. So they invited me to come play with their band Holly Rock. And so I was playing with them already. So after they got back from playing in Lake Charles with Hunter, they came back and said, you should join this band too. We need another guitar player. So that's how that happened.
So Stuart asks how have your bandmates' musical taste influenced you, which you actually answered earlier.
Well,
and he also asks if there are any favorite new bands that they've hipped you to.
Oh yeah, that's the great thing about it. It's like, it really is. They have turned me on to so many bands that I was unaware of, like, Tycho, Tame Impala, which I probably should have known about them, but I didn't know who they were. Hunter told me about them. I didn't know about Sturgill Simpson till Will told me about Sturgill Simpson, and just lots of bands of that ilk, like all these new rock bands that are coming out.
Do you have a favorite new band that you're kind of jamming on right now?
I'm drawing a blank, but I listen to a lot.
Although me and you just listened to an interesting track earlier.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I want to see you guys cover that.
Zoot or Zune?
Zoot. Yeah, so Rick Springfield was in a really cool band in Australia called Zoot, and they did a cover of Eleanor Rigby, which is the most insanely cool cover, I think.
Yeah, look it up on YouTube. It's amazing.
Yeah, so
I like Tame Impala a lot. I like War on Drugs a lot. I like that band, War on Drugs. I like My Morning Jacket. I knew who My Morning Jacket was before I got in the band, but there's new bands coming out all the time. That's a great thing about the internet. So when we travel, they're playing all this stuff, and I'm always asking them, who is that? And they tell me, and So I put them all in rotation in my phone, and then when they're playing me songs, I say, well, you know, that sounds like this band that I used to listen to in the 60s or in the 70s, and I turn them onto that. So it's this beautiful thing. There's sort of, I like it all.
I hear you.
I'm not tied to anything.
So you want to play a little bit for us, and then we'll show the video?
Well, let me just say that this guitar, it's a Fender guitar, 10-gauge strings. It has 2 pickups. I alternate. I use both pickups together and separately, and it has a whammy bar, which, you know, does. It changes the string tension. You've heard it on lots of records, particularly surf records, but lots of guys use it in country and in surf and even rock and roll. Neil Young has one on his guitar. He uses it a lot. And so that's the guitar, and the amp is a Supro, which I've fallen in love with in the last few years, and I like it.
Yeah, I learned. So that brand Jimmy Page kind of put it on the map, right?
And even Keith Richards played some, and a lot of bands in the United States played them.
It's like an all-tube amp, but these new models have a solid-state rectifier as well as a tube section. Huh?
This is a special group of amps that they make that you can switch from solid state to tube rectifier, which changes the way the amp sounds. And it also it can play at 35 watts or 60 watts. So depending on where we're playing, if we're in a small club, I'll put it on 35 watts, and if we're playing outside on a festival, I'll put it on 60. And it gives me the oomph that I need to be loud enough on stage to where I can hear myself usually if they don't have good monitors. But
yeah, we've been playing with that amp. That's a sweet sound.
So it's a great amp. And the only effect that I've got on it now is reverb. You can hear it, but and I also have a delay that I use all the time. Will and I both use delays a lot, and the delay plays the same signal back almost immediately in this setting. This is without it. And then here's the delay that's multiple delay. And then it has a reverse setting, so it plays backwards.
All right, that is totally cool and trippy. I've never heard anything like that.
Very interesting. And then another effect that I use a lot is this effect, which it's called a pitch shifter, and it shifts when I use my foot, so it makes the sound go from one octave that I'm actually playing in up. So you might do, like, to accentuate the end of a solo. So I use that a lot, and then I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 overdrive pedals, and I use all of them, and they all sound a little bit different. And depending upon the room and the place that we're playing, I use the one that gets me the sound that I like in that particular setting. And it might sound crazy, probably a lot of guitar players would think I'm nuts, but my favorite one is this one called the KTR Klon. And then I have a tremolo pedal. And then I also have an auto wah made by Mad Professor called a Snow White pedal, and it does kind of gets that Jerry Garcia Mutron envelope following kind of a sound. and I use it in conjunction with distortion pedals, depending on where we're playing, or an overdrive pedal, or just a boost pedal. And then I have this new pedal that just came out called an SY1. It's a synthesizer, and I've been using it on the song that we have called Dr. Chameleon, which is on our new album, Dr. Dude's Masquerade Parade, which you can buy online at, I think, what's the name of that website? Bandcamp? Yeah, bandcamp.com.
Which,
Anyway,
by the way, we should promote your site and everything. We're over an hour into it.
That's the synthesizer with and it has its own kind of envelope follower with the overdrive pedal. And then I have an Empress Parametric EQ, which adds treble and clarity. When I can't hear myself, I can cut through the mix by adding treble. And then two of the other things that you hear on a lot of our on all of our records for the most part is an Electro Harmonix C9 organ pedal that makes my guitar sound like an organ. And at the end of Parade, I do. So that's an organ pedal, and it has a bunch of different organ sounds. And then I have a Mellotron. It's called a Mel 9. It's a Mellotron pedal that simulates an instrument called the Mellotron, which is this huge keyboard that uses tape loops that have different sounds of different instruments on the loops, and it plays the tape when you play the keys. And this sounds a whole lot like a Mellotron, but there's one that has a low choir that I use on tour through Ecuador. This is it. So that's pretty much it. Any questions about that stuff?
That's pretty amazing. I love that. It sounds like a Leslie too. Like you could hear the.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a Leslie.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
I was saying, you know, we're over an hour into this, and we haven't even mentioned the website or anything like that. So, if people want to know more about you guys, where can they go online to find out?
Well, all of our merch now is on Bandcamp.com, so you can buy all of our CDs, LPs, and T-shirts, and hoodies and things like that. We don't have these hoodies for sale on there yet, but that may come one day. And we also have a website, theicemanspecial.com, and we have a Facebook page. You can just look up the Iceman Special, and we also have Iceman Special on Instagram. So those are the places to look for us. And there's a lot of content on YouTube of us playing live. A lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, that Dr. Dude party shot outside is pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, we shot that in a friend of ours' backyard here in New Orleans. The garden party, we called it. It was great. That was a fun one.
So, do you want to premiere this video?
Yeah, let's do the video. So these two songs are the first song is called Pinstripe, like I said earlier in the show. And they're both instrumentals, and the first one is called Pinstripe, and it is the very first song that we really kind of wrote together as a band. We were just jamming on chord changes before that, and then we wrote this together at a rehearsal. And we recorded it actually, and at a place called the White House on White Street here in New Orleans. We set up, a friend of ours, Ren Richardson, came over and set up all of his recording gear and recorded it. And we also recorded another song on that called I'll Be Good, which is out as a single. You can buy that online at, let's see, I think they have it at, I mean, it's on all the streaming services, I'll Be Good. We recorded it in the same spot. And what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the video. And so the video is a live performance where we play these two songs back to back on stage at T-Bois, which was 2 weeks ago on Friday the 13th, I believe, is the day that it was. And we liked the way they came out for the most part. And our good friend Stephen Richardson edited this and recorded this, did a bang-up job. And so the second song is called Lila Grace. And Lila Grace is named after a baby who was born after being conceived at the festival that we put on called The Void. And so Charlie came to me one day and said, let's write a song named Lila Grace because she was a product of our festival and our music festival. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we got together and we did it. And so that'll be the second song that you hear. And I hope you enjoy it.
All right. So
this is
here
live
we go.
from the T-Bois Festival.
Let's cue this up, and the world premiere of these videos, we just downloaded them just moments ago, so let's see if this comes up, and we hope you guys enjoy.
Hey guys, so we do have some merch over at the right by the beer trailer. It's being helped out by us. We're you go over there. Yes, it's the New Orleans Blues Society, and they help all the people that we basically learn from, and then basically everything that we base all our music off of is the people that they help out. So y'all be sure to go over there and check out New Orleans Blues Society. Buy a t-shirt, buy a sweater, anything you want. We got a bunch of shit.
And support New Orleans Blues Society. A lot of musicians. This is the only gig we got for a while.
Our next gig is next January.
Nice. And my listeners touch this microphone.
This is a new song that we just wrote.
All right, so there we have it. The world premiere. Thank you guys for staying and tuning in and everything. And we're just kind of hanging out here. And we really appreciate every single person that's taken some time to out of their busy quarantine schedule to come hang out and watch us. And it's much appreciated.
So welcome. I hope you enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun playing at that festival. We played at that festival last year, and we fell in love with them, and they fell in love with us. It was pouring down rain when we played last year. We played in a tent while it was pouring down rain. There was mud everywhere, and everybody at the festival crowded into the tent, and we were able to have a captive crowd. So it was a great experience, and it was a great experience this year. And they let us play as long as we wanted to on Friday night, and we had so much fun. It was great. And then we immediately left there, and the virus was expanding, and the news was growing about it, and the awareness of it was growing. So we all went and sequestered ourselves and self-quarantined from that day on. And we're just grateful that we were able to come here and do this tonight. This place, it's called the PinChurch, and it's you can see, you can't see very well, but it's full of pinball machines, some going back as far as the 1930s, and they work on pinball machines, they repair pinball machines, they have a laser etcher machine and cutter machine, they do computer experiments, and they're working on inventions all the time here. These guys are great, and then they have this, Mike has set up this incredible recording studio that uses Pro Tools and also does video simultaneously, as you can see, and that's what we were going to be doing tonight if it hadn't been for the virus and how it, separated everybody. But this place is amazing, and it's a group of people who try to help each other a lot. Like we were here yesterday, and Mike did a video for the Humane Society, the president of the Humane Society here in Louisiana, who helps rescue animals and get animals out of the state that are going to be euthanized to other states where they don't let them euthanize animals because they don't have animals in the numbers that we do down here. So it was an amazing show, and so it really touched my heart when I saw that Mike's here doing this because he cares about animals and he cares about the community, and this is a bunch of like-minded people that are doing things like that. There's some guys here that are making the masks that people are wearing these days and things of that nature. So this is a great place. It's fun. I mean, I've been playing the pinball machines in between setting up and during post-production and pre-production. I play pinball machines. I love pinball machines. Used to go to the Penny Arcade on Royal Street on Saturday mornings in the 50s and 60s and play pinball all day long. And so this was like just fantastic for me to come in here and see all these pinball machines. But there's just so much more that they do here. And I have an idea about the band recording a live album here and filming the whole thing, which I think will be one of our projects. Hopefully we'll get to do that in the near future.
Yeah, we are so looking forward to that.
And so I'm gonna let Mike talk for a minute about this place, the PinChurch, and the people that run it have this crew called the Mystic Crew of the Silver Ball, and the silver ball, I'm sure I deduced, is the pinball. So I'll let Mike tell you a little bit more about this place.
Yeah, well, we've created an interesting cultural scene. I mean, the whole idea behind social aid and pleasure clubs was never really about parading. It was about fellowships of people, that kind of looked out for each other, which is one of the reasons why we all connected with you guys so well, because you're a fellowship too, and the bond between you and I guess now, from looking at the chat room, there's a bond between you guys and the fans too. There's
Amen.
A family there. And we can really, really identify with that, And it seems like in modern times with technology, so many people are just detached from caring and empathy and recognizing that we're all part of one family. We're so being told that our neighbors are out to get us. And you know, this is a time really where we need to kind of think about the things that bring us together, not the things that separate us. And you know, our group is all about celebrating that, celebrating people that care about other people and work together and collaborate. And that's kind of what the Mystic Crew is. And anybody that wants to find out more about it can go to mysticcrew.com. That's mystickrewe.com. And one of our pet projects has been this Live at the PinChurch series, where we basically bring in artists and other people in the community to come in and perform. We've done classes. We've done all kinds of stuff. And it's interesting. We've been doing this now for 7 years. We're in our 7th year. So we were in this unique position when the quarantine happened to have this really high-quality cyber studio. And you know, everybody else is kind of holed up, but I just feel like we need to be using this to bring as many messages to as many people as possible. So I thank you, Steve, for coming out.
You're welcome.
I mean, we had hoped to have the whole band here, but that will happen soon enough. And I just can't wait, because I know how awesome everybody in the band is. And we're going to have one hell of a party. And you guys out there that are fans, there'll be some tickets for sale. And if you want to find out about actually coming into the space, just go to PinChurch.com, PinChurch.com. And you know, we're very grateful for everybody that's taken the time to help support each other during this kind of really just completely crazy period culturally. I know there's so much uncertainty, but there's also a lot of positivity here, you know, and no matter how bad things get, there's always hope, and there's always opportunity too, you know, and that's kind of what we focus on. You can focus on the negativity, or you can focus on the potential and how things can change, and maybe even in the darkest times we can reprioritize our, you know, things. And that's kind of what we hope to do here. So what do you think, Stephen?
Well, from being around here for a few days and watching what goes on and what they're doing, and also I joined the crew. They invited me to join the crew, and I joined the crew day before yesterday, and I've been in on their emails, and it's basically a group of people trying to help each other and help the community. I'm blown away by it. That's all they're about. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and if there's any other artists, creative people out there that want to be able to kind of perform or have a message to get out in the PinChurch, you know, just contact us. It's, you know, you can Mike at PinChurch.com, and just let us know that what's out, you know, if you're out there. So do you want to do some playing? You want to talk more about these guitars?
Well, first thing I want to say is thank you for having us.
Well, thank you guys for coming. And we have some other guys in the band that are coming up after us a little bit later.
Right, and I want to talk about that. So there's going to be a live stream from the Void grounds in Oakdale, Louisiana, right after this, starting at 9 o'clock. I'm sure you can log on there before that. They may be live before that. This Facebook page is FET, F-E-T-E, D-U, do, Void, V-O-I-D, FET, do, Void, Facebook page, and also Instagram. And they will be having a live stream where they're going to be talking about the Void Festival, about the band, about their take on what's going on, about what they're doing. And then they're going to, they have a friend of ours who's there with them called Zach Edwards, and they are going to be playing some live music for you from the Void grounds where we have the festival tonight, starting at 9 o'clock. If you go to that site, the Facebook page, FET Do Void, you'll be able to watch that. And they'll tell you all about it, and you'll get to see the Murray brothers and Zach Edwards, and they may have some, I don't think they'll have any other people in there with them because they are sequestered, but you'll get to see that following this show. So please watch that, and remember to come to the FET Do Void Festival in October and rock out with us with all these bands that we're going to have from all over the country that are going to be playing at that festival. Everybody's going to be raring to go after this being locked away for a while. And so thank you very much for that, and hopefully you'll enjoy that too. I'm sure you will. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these guitars if you want to talk about them. If anybody has any questions, you can send them on the chat room, and we'll answer any other questions. It can be about anything that you want. The thing that I want to say that I said earlier, in case you came in late, was that this virus, from my point of view, has acted as a launching pad for creativity. Thus, how we couldn't do a concert tonight, but Mike and I and the guys in the band created an event that started at 4 o'clock this afternoon and will go on till 11 o'clock at night. So you can experience the Iceman Special in different form, but nevertheless us, and hear about what's going on with us for those of you that are interested. And what I want to say is that I believe that if we do our best to be creative and trying to help each other during this time, we'll get through this stronger and better for it. And we will, because it's like, my description was that I used to go scuba diving. When you go scuba diving, you can't talk. You have to go under the water with the group of people that you're diving with. And when you come out of the water, you have this shared experience that was very intense and beautiful. And you know, I don't know if I'd call this experience beautiful, but I think that what's coming out of it is beautiful. We are sharing worldwide an intense experience that we are going to survive, and we're going to be okay in the long run, and we're going to be better for it, for helping each other through it. And I'm going to do everything I can to help my family and my friends and my extended family. I belong to some other fellowships and things in my life, and I'm going to do what I can to help those people. And if all of us do that, this will be an amazing thing. And when we come out of it on the other side, we'll be better for it, and we'll be closer to each other, because we will have gone through this experience together, as you know, as opposed to separately and fighting. And I don't see that happen. What I see is every day people doing more and more and more to help each other. So try to remember that if you can. And if you want to hear a little bit about these guitars, I'm going to go through them really briefly. Do we have time? We got a few more minutes?
We have as much time as you
want. We need to
want.
quit by 9. I want to quit by 9.
Right. We're what are we at? We're at 8:38.
Okay, so we're at 8:30. So this is a guitar.
By the way, let me just say thank you, Steve. You know, we just, you know, you're not seeing the chat room, but just the love that's pouring out into the chat room is so helpful and energetic, and kind of, it's really awesome. You know, what you guys, this spirit that your band kind of conjures up in the scene around you, I think is totally unique, and we love it, and we love you. And we thank you guys, everybody. Even though I know the rest of the band is not here, they're tuning in. There's this energy between everybody. And I mean, I hate to sound kind of like, you know, sappy about it, but it is really, really cool. This is so different. We've done a lot of events here, but even though we're distant and we're away from each other, and we're kind of just teleconnecting, there's a closeness there that I'm not used to feeling when I do this. And I really appreciate you guys for kind of bringing that to this thing.
Thank you. And you know, it is sappy. And you know what? Right now, sappy is good. It's really good. It's better to feel sappy than angry and scared.
And thank all of you people in the chat room too. You know, thank you guys for your love and your support. Thank everybody in the Mystic crew for supporting what we're doing, and all of the Iceman fans. You know, I think it's really important. And thanks.
Thank you.
And I saw that guitar, and I was like, wow, that is such a cool looking guitar. I wonder if I can actually zoom in there and get a close up of how interesting it is. I was asking you about that earlier.
Well, this guitar was made by a man named James Trussart. He has a guitar company called James Trussart Custom Guitars. You can find it online. Go look at it tonight whenever you get some free time, or tomorrow. He's an artist. He's a musician. He spent a lot of time in Louisiana. He's really good friends with Zachary Richard and Sonny Landreth and C.C. Adcock and a bunch of musicians from Louisiana. And he came here in the 70s or 80s and taught English and played music in the band with Zachary Richard for a while. And he went back to France, and he started making guitars. And I met him in the early 90s, and we were fast friends. He was living in Paris, and we became really, really close friends. We're very close friends, and so...
Now, is this a guitar for sale, or is this a guitar you're just sharing with us?
This guitar is not for sale. This is a guitar that he and I designed together and made. He made it, obviously, but as he was making it, he was sending me videos and pictures of the pieces and the parts as when this metal didn't have any etching on it, and when this guitar was not painted, and when it was disassembled and in parts. He sent me the parts. He goes, "Are these the right parts?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that?" I said, "I want this, I want that." He said, "Okay." Then he'd do a little bit, and he'd send me a picture. He said, "Is this all right?" I said, "Yes." So anyway, he builds guitars for a lot of people, and he has guitars for sale on his website, and there's a lot of dealers around the country. I'm one of them. But he built this guitar for me a few years ago because I like blue guitars, and I wanted something that was really lightweight. This guitar weighs about 6.5 pounds or less, somewhere like 6 pounds, 7 ounces.
So you said the neck's made out of pine?
The neck is made out of stained maple.
Oh, maple.
Stained maple. He stained it. It should be, I don't think we have a guitar in here with a maple neck.
It looked like it was walnut. It was
But
dark.
it was yellow to start with, like amber colored. And he stained it. And then the body is made out of sugar pine. And that's why it's so light, because the body is so light. And he likes the old look, and I like that old look too. So he painted it lightly, but you can see the wood through it. The wood grain is amazing.
So this is a custom guitar from the ground up, right?
From the ground up, right. So, he took a Bigsby tailpiece, he modified it his own design so that it's different than the normal Bigsby that you see like this. He put this bar on here, which doesn't usually come on these, and he hollowed this out so this pickup would raise up closer to the strings. He took 2 Telecaster pickups, put them in the front, and so I can use them either like a humbucker, or I can split the coils and have it like a single Telecaster pickup, and he cut the tops off of them so that it gives a little bit different sound. I get a little bit more bite out of the front pickup than you normally would get out of a Telecaster.
Now, I know you want to do a short thing, but you can't hold that thing up and not let us hear what it sounds like. I'm sorry, I'm going to be...
All right, this is going to make a noise. Let me just...
It's all right. That's fine. We can handle it. And that Supro amp is amazing, too.
So this is like the guitar that I play in Holly Rock. It's real twangy. It's a Telecaster. I mean... So it's real twangy, and if I want to play like a rock song with it, or so the front pickup, it's got a a more of a rock kind of a sound, but you can do country with it by splitting the pickup. So it's a great guitar, and I play it in Holly Rock a lot. I use it on stage with the Iceman only when I break a string, because I'm married to this one.
So that is sitting on the side of the stage of your gigs?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't have mentioned that, huh?
No. There's some industrious people who are thieves out there. Hopefully they're not
watching. I wouldn't leave that on the side of the stage. I'm sorry.
Well, it's on stage with me.
Okay.
So it's not on the side of the stage.
You hear that, people? It's under constant supervision.
That's right.
Armed guards. Don't even think about it.
That's a great guitar. I mean, it's fantastic. And James he's just an incredible guy. He makes some of the most beautiful guitars. I mean, Mick Jagger plays his guitars. Keith Richards does. Robert Cray. I mean, shit, he's made guitars for everybody. Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello has one. Anyway, it's a great thing. So here, let me show you a couple of others that are really interesting. So I brought this one tonight. This is a Zemaitis guitar that was made in England by Tony Zemaitis. This company...
Look at that, that's
crazy. It was bought by the Japanese people, and so... I mean, it wasn't bought by the Japanese people, but they bought the rights to manufacture these guitars in China and in Japan, but mostly in China these days. And
obviously,
no, I'm sorry, it is Japan. But the thing is that this is one of the original ones made in England. He made guitars for people like Donovan, Ron Wood
Birds
play.
or anything like that?
Ron Wood and Keith Richards both have one of these. They're quite expensive because they're
zoom
very
in on
rare.
that.
It's got a hand carved metal top.
In case anybody's tuning in late, and wondering what's going on, Steve here is the owner of International Vintage Guitars. So in addition to being an Iceman special, he's showing off some of the really impressive guitars from his shop. We asked that, hey, you might as well decorate the set with something interesting, and we couldn't not inquire about them, right? I mean,
right.
This is some
So
pretty...
this guitar, Paul McCartney has one just like it. And the story is that he borrowed it from a music store in England, and he liked it so much that he just didn't bring it back. So
Yeah,
I don't
if
know
you're
if
Paul
they've ever
McCartney,
gotten
you could
paid
do
for
that.
it, which is hilarious, but maybe they have. But anyway, he liked it so much that he kept it. So they're amazing. This is a 12-string guitar that plays easier than most electric guitars. It's just amazing.
All right, we got to hear that.
And I don't know if it's in tune, but
I've never seen a 12-string that immediately was in tune, but...
amazing guitar.
I cannot believe that thing is mostly in tune. That's amazing.
I know. It's a great guitar. It's truly a great guitar, and it's quite expensive. It's $29,000.
Only 29,000 for you people at home.
And I've sold some for more than that. These guitars, they're very hard to get a hold of, but every once in a while, I was fortunate enough to meet a guy who had collected them in the early '90s when they weren't so expensive, and I got 7 or 8 from him, and I've sold all of them but this one. Anyway, it's an amazing guitar.
Wow,
very
that's-
rare, very beautiful, and it's a great. I mean, it's just a great guitar. Period. It ought to be for that price. So this other guitar I'm going to show you is really cool also. This is a 1964 Gibson ES-175 in natural, which it's more of like a jazz or blues guitar. Mostly, it's mostly like jazz. Most people play.
Yeah, you brought these guitars in. You didn't tune any of them, right? You didn't tune any of them. That's the mark of a really just amazing guitar. It'll just hang on to that tune.
This one's out of tune.
Of course, I just
Anyway,
said that in now.
This is a great guitar too. It's beautiful.
It's got a
In
really
really
nice
good
warmth to it.
condition. I got this guitar from a guy who was from New Orleans, who moved away, and he said, "Well, I bought these guitars in New Orleans, and I want them to be sold to people who are in New Orleans." So he let me get them from
So
him.
come on down to International Vintage Guitars, and these will be there before, although provided Joe Bonamassa doesn't buy them first, right?
Right. So maybe he will. He's bought several. So anyway, this is a 1959 Gibson Les Paul Special, and it's all original, I think, except for this little tailpiece, the stop bar tailpiece. But everything else on it is original, and this is a monster.
59. Wow.
I don't know if it's. This is the kind of guitar that Leslie West played in Mountain, for people that go way back. His was a single pickup Les Paul Jr., but basically the same guitar with a single pickup. That was out of tune. rock guitar. This is a kind of guitar that Steve Miller plays a lot. He has a bunch of these.
Got that classic Les Paul sustain on it, I guess.
Exactly, and these old P90 pickups. That's an amazing guitar. In pretty good shape.
And that's for sale at the shop, right?
This is for sale at the shop. And then last but certainly not least, we have a 1967 Gibson Es-335. B.B. King played guitars like this most at the beginning of his career, and then he changed to started playing 355s, which are a little bit more ornate, but they're basically the same guitar. This is a guitar that blues and rock guitar players played a lot. This is a 67.
Wow, that is just beautiful. I don't know how well we record this in high quality and we stream it up to Facebook, and I don't know. You never know what Facebook does with that audio feed, whether they compress it. So, I wish you guys could hear how it sounds here live, because it's just so much more explosive. But I hope you guys can appreciate it remotely. It's
so anyway, thank you for watching, and let me show you these guitars. I love guitars. When I was 5 years old, I lived in Sulphur, Louisiana, out in the country, and next door to me, a dad bought his two young sons two Fender Telecasters, and this was like 1955 or 56, and they had two Fender amplifiers, and they started playing them out on their front porch, and I was like, they were like snake charmers. I was like a zombie. It was all I could do. I would sit in the front yard and listen to them play whenever they were playing, so that's how this got all started. Anyway, thank you for listening. Be sure to go to the Fête Devoid website at Facebook. Check out our Facebook page, The Iceman Special. But tonight, stay tuned. Starting in just a few minutes, coming from Camp Void in Oakdale, Louisiana, you're going to get to hear two of the other guys in the Iceman Special and Mr. Zach Edwards play some music for you and do some interviewing and talking about how things are going and what's coming up for us. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I'm so fortunate.
Thank you, guys, and stay tuned for the next installment. And thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. And yay!
Yay! Bye.